love me so much more than I could ever know. Your love is deeper than this world will ever show. And all of life's beauty shines around this moment now. The sky and the cliffs, they seem to change my life somehow. And I will never be the same, will never be the same. Whoa, I will never be the same, never be the same ever again. Well, here I am waiting, Lord, my life is just for you. Please unfold all the plans that you would have me do. And if all the world's just a breath and nothing's here to stay, then all of the love we feel will save us anyway. And I will never be the same, will never be the same. Whoa, I will never be the same, will never be the same ever again.
Hello and welcome to another SDA Q&A. I'm your host, Peter Dixon, and my special guest, incognito, is Mark Anthony. And great to have you here today, Mark. Can you hear me?
Good evening, Peter. It was nice after such a long time.
I know we've tried several times.
After
I
such a
think
long time, you asking me to be a part of your program.
there's a little bit of a delay, which won't be a problem because you're going to be sharing a bit of a presentation today. But just keep that in mind when you answer. It looks like there's about a 4 or 5 second delay. But yes, I've been keen to have you on the program for a long time. Those watching, Mark Anthony is well known on our YouTube channel for often popping in and making comments and asking questions. And he's a valued member because he typifies the kind of person I really like. They kind of come in and just speak very bluntly with what they think, throw thoughts out there, cause a bit of a stir sometimes, but invariably create an interest in dialogue and talking about these conversations. So sometimes I've found your comments and questions, how can I put it? Not provocative, but a little bit like you've assessed already in your mind what you think I or someone might be saying, and so you throw it out there with a bit of a robust reply. And I like that because it's what you're feeling, it's what you're thinking. You're not filtering your thoughts and your comments, and then that gives the person, whether it's me or my guest, gives them a chance to clarify more clearly what they think. So, mate, you're a valued member of the SDAQ&A community, and it's great to have you finally on the show. I love when people from the audience get to come on the show and share their stories. Are you there?
Oh, there, right. Now I'm hearing you.
Yeah, there's a big
Now,
delay. Did you hear that whole spiel?
yeah, right.
Oh, good. So,
Yes, I did, but now I'm hearing you. I feel as though I'm broadcasting for the Olympic Games from Europe or someplace like that. Anyway, yeah,
yeah, that's right.
It's always a pleasure. It's always a pleasure watching your interviews. I learn a lot, and you interview very interesting people. People who are highly qualified, highly experienced. I don't think I'm of that caliber. I don't think I rise to that level. I'm
I
just an
certainly
ordinary
don't.
person, right? But I always find your interview is very interesting. Yeah.
Well, I think since leaving the Adventist Church, I'm putting my 5 generations marinated in the whole doctrine, theology, Ellen White to good use. So it's down here somewhere. And if I'll be interviewing someone, I suddenly hear myself asking a question that seems quite good. And I think, where did that come from? So it's all subconscious and it's all coming out. And I love it. Hey, just a quick hot off the press, thanks to Gillian Ford.
Yeah.
She's organised an interview with me and Don McAdams, with myself and Warren Trenchard, and with me and Bob Brinsmead coming up over the next month. So talk about interesting guests. So you're up there with all this Adventist royalty. Lost you again. Hopefully you can hear me still.
Yeah.
Anyway,
your voice
yeah.
becoming, hearing you. But then
Yeah.
your voice
Well,
goes off like a robot.
yeah, I don't know what's
You're
going
hearing
your
me?
end. Yeah, I can hear you well.
Right now.
Let's
Okay.
just see if I can press another button.
Yeah, you were saying something about hot off the press.
Yes, so we've got Dr. Warren Trenchard, Dr. Donald McAdams, and Robert Brinsmead all coming on the show in the next month, thanks to Gillian Ford. She's organised that for us. And we've got
I look forward to that.
Yeah, it's going to be great. Now, we've got a lot of people watching. Welcome, everybody. We're going to dive in. The topic today is Ellen was wrong about Daniel 8 and 9. Now, Mark Anthony is here anonymously because he is still a Seventh day Adventist, and some of what he says may get him into a bit of trouble, and some of what he says is very much in line with Adventist apologists' defense of the church. So you're an interesting person, Mark. Share with me today what we're going to be talking about, and share a little bit about yourself too, please.
Oh, okay. I think I explained myself in the intro, in the
Yes,
ad
but
that you
only
made
some
for
people on
the.
Facebook could see that.
Yeah. Well, I'm a Seventh Day Adventist. I sit in the pews. I was baptized when I was a teenager. I became convinced that Saturday was a Sabbath, and that is what drew me in. It's amazing that when I became a Seventh Day Adventist, they never mentioned anything about Ellen White or Spirit of Prophecy or so on until
Wow.
you joined the church. Then you began to learn about that. So all I knew was Saturday is a Sabbath, and that sounded very convincing to me, and I got baptized. But over the years, I started studying and studying, and I think I'm a better person for that, and I've learned so much. And I don't believe everything that is told to me. You know, I have my own mind, which
Mm,
of course you know.
yeah.
But today I want to look at Daniel 8 and 9. And the reason why I want to look at Daniel 8 and 9 is because of the recent interview ADL did with Ryan Day. Ryan Day has attracted a huge audience after him.
Mm,
On this platform, that program has 13,000 views. That's a lot of views.
mm,
And what they did to him, I don't I don't quite agree with. And I wrote this article and sent it to them, but they refused to publish it.
mm.
And I would like to read it as a matter of introduction to the
Yeah.
topic.
Yeah,
I'd
that's
like to
great.
read it.
Yeah,
Okay.
they do like to curate their show quite strongly.
During ADL's conversation with Ryan Day on May 10th, the day-year principle was raised. ADL took an unorthodox approach by passing the usual proof texts, Numbers 14:34 and Ezekiel 4:5-6. Instead, they used Daniel 9 to cleverly insinuate the principle had general consensus. However, was the angel of Daniel 9 really speaking in that coded way? Days for years? He said 70 weeks are determined for your people and for your holy city. Then went on to prophesy about Christ to come, much more than the 70 weeks, about a year and a half would allow for. Obviously, then it was argued the 70 weeks were indicative of a longer time frame, and what better principle of interpretation was there than the one twice suggested before in Numbers and Ezekiel? That way, ADL concluded, was a year for each day and was the general consensus in these matters. Consensus, yes, but not that principle. The troublesome word is week. It's not there. The word is seven, sabwim, a period of 7 days or years, a heptad, a week, as in a heptad, and so therefore the passage, and so throughout the passage as a unit of time. It's a multiplicator and means 7 times over. Judah, having been taken to Babylon for 70 years for their egregious sins, Daniel, at its conclusion, prayed for the kingdom's forgiveness and deliverance. But God sent Gabriel to tell him, unfortunately, no. The time of the end had come for the transgressors. But like the antediluvians were granted 120 years until the flood, not to be interpreted as 120 by 360 days per year, or for the 3,200 years until the flood. So the God had determined for the Jews 70 times 7 years grace, as Gabriel foretold. The end of the city shall be with a flood. Until the end of the war, desolations are determined. The multiplicator was drawn from Leviticus 26. After this, and after all this, if you do not obey me, I will punish you 7 times more for your sins. Then if you walk contrary to me and are not willing to obey me, I will bring on you 7 times more plagues according to your sins. Even more pointedly, consider the prophecy through Jeremiah. For thus says the Lord, after 70 years are completed at Babylon, I will visit you and perform my good word toward you and cause you to return to this place. Was that 70 by 360 days per year? 25,200 years? Of course not. If so, the Jews would have been in Babylon to this day. Daniel
Mm.
9:27. Daniel does not give credence to the supposed day-year principle. Rather, Gabriel told Daniel there was no turning back for the Jews. They were going to be punished 7 times over their 70 years in Babylon until they had been completely shattered, when all these things shall be finished. Daniel 12:7b. There is no day-year principle that must be applied to prophecies in the Bible, unless God, by interpretation or explanation, says so. In the prophecies of Daniel, however, no such interpretation or explanation is given by God. The closest I can think of this, of their experience, do you remember when the children of Israel were supposed to enter the promised land and they lost faith? God told them for each day that those spies spied out the land, they're going to wander in the wilderness until all of them perish. In a similar manner, he seems to be saying that for each year you spend in Babylon, because you have not obeyed me, you're going to spend, for each one of those years, you're going to spend 7 under other rulers until the very end. You're nothing at all. It seems to me that is the closest parallel I can draw.
Mm.
But that's not a year for a day. That's for a year for a heptad. 1 year for 7 years. 70 years, 70 times 7. I sent this to ADL, but they didn't publish it, so
Mm.
I wanted to read it here for the wider audience. I don't believe in the day for year principle. I don't believe it's applicable. Do you have any?
Would you say, therefore, so there's a couple of thoughts that pop into my mind. And can
Yeah,
you hear me okay?
yeah, I'm hearing you.
Yeah. So a couple of thoughts pop into my mind. One, does that mean, therefore, that you don't believe anything happened of a supernatural nature October 22, 1844?
No, I don't
Because,
believe that.
and secondly, how do you feel about remaining an Adventist when that concludes, or that thought extrapolates to the notion that Ellen White is a false prophet, because she claimed to have seen that all those numbers did add up in vision?
Yeah, I know that's your favorite question, and I've been preparing for it for quite a while.
Tell me the answer.
Do you believe there are little people on Saturn?
No.
Right. It doesn't matter, right? Because nobody is going to Saturn to check.
But
So
Ellen
if you
said there
believe
was.
so and another
Ellen
person
Ellen
doesn't believe
Ellen
so,
said there was in vision. So my point isn't about the um, fault or flaw in the prophet. My concern is the fault and flaw in their claim that God told them that, which undermines their authority, because you can't tell, well, when is it an accurate message from God or not?
Yeah, I don't believe that she saw anything like that. And when those conversations come up, I simply say I don't believe that. But it doesn't affect me because my Christianity is treating others well.
Yes, but if you've thought for months about this question that you knew I was going to ask, why
Yeah.
aren't you answering the question?
About Ellen White being a false prophet?
Yeah, wouldn't it indicate two things? One, if she claimed that God told her in vision that those numbers of Miller do add up, and you've concluded that they don't, therefore you can't just go, well, I don't believe that. You have to look at the bigger picture of her claim that God told her. My point is that what do you do with the information that God told her something that is wrong? And if you then say, well, she got some things wrong because she misinterpreted what God told her, then the second part of my point is, well, how do you tell when it is something you should listen to or not?
She's not my authority. I go by the Bible, and SDA present themselves as going by the Bible. So I simply use that to say, this is what I believe the Bible says.
So
Now, if
you're
Ellen
happy
White is a
to...
false...
Sorry, Ellen White was a false prophet. Is that what you're about to say?
Yeah, if Ellen White is a false prophet, then she's a false prophet.
See, I find that really interesting. And I know a lot of Adventist apologists who stay in the church have concluded exactly what you're saying. They don't necessarily come out as honestly as you do, which I really appreciate, that, and say she is a false prophet. My concern is that by putting your name to that, when you know that she is a false prophet, is that you're aiding the branding and the proselytization of the church, and therefore, by being a good upstanding member, can help to bring people into the fold, or children growing up into the fold, who therefore will fall into these pitfalls that a false prophet can also bring to the table. An adult that thinks like you do can draw conclusions and go, well, I'm not going to believe that. I'm going to put that aside. This is false, but I still want to be an Adventist. But for children coming up into it, and for people joining the church, they could well fall into the pitfalls of believing some of this stuff because she says it so authoritatively and with such authority, and the church defends her by saying that she is an ongoing authority on all these things. So it seems to me that by saying it's okay, I can not believe in her, but I've still put my name to the Adventist church, is that you're willing to do two things. One, be a stumbling block for people coming into the church because you're still branding yourself as an Adventist. And two, saying that I'm happy to say that truth doesn't really matter. I'll be an Adventist anyway.
Yeah. Okay, which church could you join where you agree with 100% of everything they say?
Zero.
I don't know the right. There is no church, so why wander from place to place?
Because
Like
my
a nomad,
in my dealings with Adventism and pursuing well over 400 long form interviews that I appreciate that you've watched a lot of, which is very impressive, I've concluded that Adventism is less benign than all the other movements that are also flawed. It is making some very, very bold claims that are bolder than most other Christian movements. So you could become a Baptist, and sure, there's so many flawed teachings, things you won't agree with, people that are corrupt. There's all of the same things that Adventists have. But Adventists have a bolder claim that says we are a people that will stand at the end of time without a mediator to prove Satan's claim wrong that you can't keep the commandments. And that sales funnel to that end game creates a movement that I believe can cause a great deal of anguish and mental health problems for children and for people coming into the church not fully aware of it. So to me personally, people who say, well, look, I think she's a false prophet, and boy, she got those dates wrong. And I don't think God even spoke to her in ways that people claim. She was just inspirational. They're allowing that brand to continue to flourish. And I just think that maybe Adventism is less benign than you think. Would that be a fair assessment?
No, I don't see them as a cult. The minute they demand that you believe something or they punish you, then is when I leave.
Well, haven't you seen that happening though? Like, for example, I'm going to do a show. I've mentioned it a little bit in the recent weeks where I was listening to a podcast, and the lady said, the person being interviewed said, look, a simple way to define a cult is if it's a movement that shames its members if they leave and shuns them if they leave. Now, we've seen in the last few months an incredible amount of shaming and shunning. My own show was presented as poison on another person's platform, that if people go and watch my content, they shouldn't, because it is poison. Now, that's definite shunning there, and I just don't see that happening in the more benign movements, the Episcopalians, the Presbyterians, the Methodists, the Anglicans, the Baptists. If you leave, they often don't even notice. And a lot of attention is focused on the core common beliefs of Christianity. Whereas Adventism, look what has happened to Ryan. We did a whole show on it with Andrea and Rochelle and some others, where we were looking at how John Lomakang was treating Ryan, absolute shaming him, and shunning him in ways. We saw the whole Christopher Mindanao episode where he simply said on another podcast that he felt the seal of God was the Holy Spirit and not the Sabbath, and within weeks he'd lost his job. So I'm not saying Adventism is a cult, but it fits that usable, simple definition of a cult, and seems to be flying very close to the wind when it comes to being a church that has teachings that could really trap you into some serious mental health problems.
Okay, one at a time. This idea that shunning. You see, you have to make a distinction between when leaders leave and when ordinary members leave. When leaders leave, the church has to protect its image, and it goes in defensive and attack modes. It wants to say, don't go after this man. It wants to say that. And it has to find a language to express that idea. And the only language that can do that is by saying, this man doesn't agree with us. This man is against us. So it has to respond. Can't just be like a sitting duck. If your country is attacked, would you just sit down and say, yeah, take whatever you want?
So what you're saying is that if you're a prominent leader and you leave, you can understand why you're going to get a bit of an attack against you. However, there are many examples. I can't bring one to mind at the moment, but I'm sure I could easily find them. I've got friends that are prominent leaders in other denominations, and literally chatting to a friend this week who was previously in the Uniting Church and is now a Baptist, and he's a prominent influencer. I said to him, have you had any pushback from the Uniting Church? No. He even wondered why I was asking the question. So if what you're saying is true, I can understand why people want to push back, but I'm saying the way they push back is with in fact, I'd say 99% of the time, when Adventists are feeling threatened by well-known public figures that have left the church, they attack with this ad hominem approach. They're attacking the player, not the ball. They rarely will engage in a conversation about the claims and defend their claims. They attack the person. And the Adventists have got a history of this from Canwright to Ryan Day, where they attack the person and not the claims. And that to me is an example of two things: a very unhealthy movement, and an example of how you have no argument if you attack the person, not the claim. Very few Adventist apologists are good at defending their claims, as you've just pointed out with the ADL. You've totally, in my mind, in a 5-minute presentation there with a few minutes ago, have conclusively shown that they are wrong in their claim. But what do? They don't let you speak. They shun you. I'm sure if you did get a chance to speak, they'd shame you in some way as well. So I just think there's problems with a movement that approaches any kind of scrutiny that will attack the person's character and not the claim. And that has been demonstrable within Adventism for nearly 200 years. It's their go-to default. And Ellen White pretty much wrote the book on how to do it. You read her testimonies and you go, okay, this is how you attack people and bring them down. The other thing I wanted to say, so that's I think been a good pushback on your suggestion that we're allowed to push back if we're being attacked. I agree, but push back on the claims, and Adventists don't do that. The other thing I wanted to highlight is that in your very nature, you yourself have said to me, you are not a big influential figure. You're a normal, pew-warming Adventist that loves the Sabbath, disagrees with certain things, but in many ways would view yourself as a cultural Adventist. However, in spite of being that, you're still saying that you want to be anonymous, you've got a pseudonym for the name, and we can't see your face. I'm fine with that. But the problem with that is that thank you, darling. I've just been brought a nice cup of tea. The problem with that is that you're demonstrating that you cannot speak freely in this movement without pushback. And I think that that's a sad thing. What are your thoughts on that?
Okay. Yeah, I have a lot of thoughts. First, ADL. ADL is my friend, and I know people are going to talk about this, so I have to say it openly. ADL has never silenced me. They have never shunned me. They have welcomed me. In fact, every Saturday we meet and we talk and we argue and so forth.
Yeah,
so I
and
want to
look,
make it very clear that ADL.
I'm glad you've made that clear. I actually have friendly conversations with them too. They've
Right.
been pretty good with me. I had them on the show. There was no real pushback to me. There was no nastiness. I've seen them go after Miles and people with quite a nasty, aggressive approach, but they've been good to me as well. But that's not my point. My point is the big picture point here is that, thanks, honey, is that if you are a big influencer and a public figure, Adventist apologists and leaders do not defend their beliefs. They attack the character of a person. And secondly, we're looking that here you are, just like me, I used to be just a pew warmer, play a bit of music occasionally, but you are concerned about your standing within the church for simply questioning on a biblical basis the 2,300 days, which I think you have every right to. And yet here you are feeling a little bit unsure of doing that with your face attached to it. Again, which I respect. I'm just pointing the big picture is here. There seems to be something wrong with a movement that cannot accept actual open dialogue on biblical topics.
Yes. Now there is a problem there. You're not getting a perfect picture.
That's why we're chatting.
The right. The Seventh Day Advent. I see Barb. I'm watching the conversation here
Oh,
online. I see
yes.
Barb
I've got
says
them
she was
turned off.
she was an ordinary member and she was shunned. Well, I'm sorry about that. Everybody has their own experience, but my own experience is that I have friends there, and I can speak my mind, but I cannot speak against the church in public openly from the pulpit.
So I'm not
I
saying
cannot get
I'm not
right,
saying that you
but
are.
in the
I'm
pew I can.
no, I'm saying you can't. I don't think you can. If you could,
Yeah.
you would come on my show, you'd show your face and say, "Look, I've got some concerns on Ellen White's claim of a biblical nature that I think's wrong." If you did, you would suddenly feel the full force, even though you're, a good, just normal guy who likes to sit in the pew and do a bit of Bible study, who I'm also sure does some pastoral work and some preaching as well. I think you've downplayed a bit of your influence, but that's fine. But my point is the big picture is that Adventists. So let's say we've got some exceptions to the rule. That doesn't prove my point. It confirms it. There's only a few that can actually speak up, and when they do, they get caned. Look at our whole series on Des Ford. You question Ellen White's authority publicly, goodbye.
Now I'd like to agree with you. You question Ellen White's authority publicly, goodbye. I think we can agree on that. Don't do that in public. Don't do that on the pulpit. That's wrong. It's like me coming on your show and saying, uh, Peter Dixon is the devil incarnate.
You did
Well,
say
what you
that
do?
once, didn't you?
I never said that, Peter. Do not lie. That's not nice. Not, you know what? What do you think you will do? You will say, "Man, look, this gotta end here. This interview end right now."
I
Sorry.
I no, it wouldn't.
You have
It
to be.
wouldn't. I
How
would
should I
be
put it?
happy
Diplomatic.
if you
Yeah, you
said
have
to
to be
me,
diplomatic.
Peter, I think that you are being influenced by the devil. You are the devil incarnate. I wouldn't actually stop you talking. I'd say, Mark, that's a little bit of an attack at my character. How about we unpack why you've drawn that conclusion, and then you could publicly go for it, telling me if, as long as you're talking about your claims that have drawn that to that point where you've made that conclusion. And then that gives me the right of reply. My point is that in the Adventist church, from pew to pulpit, you are not allowed to question anything that might look. Your program today is perfect example of this, and I am amazed at how succinctly you did it. Like, I've been trying to fathom this stuff for years about Daniel, because I've mainly been focusing on the time of trouble and the close of probation and standing without an intercessor. That's been a big focus for me recently. I've been looking forward to one day getting into Daniel, and looking, and you've just done this. You've gone, whoa, here's my refuting of Ellen's claim. And I think you've done a brilliant job and confirmed in my mind conclusively that she was wrong. And good on you. I appreciate that. My point is that you would not be able to do that and show your face as an observation, or just saying, hey, I want to study this. Let's look what the Bible says, friends. Not criticizing the church, not coming to the pulpit and tearing them down, just saying, hey, friends, fellow Seventh-day Adventists, I love you, you love me, we culturally enjoy haystacks after Sabbath lunch. I've got some concerns biblically. And Ellen says to go to the Bible. And Ellen says, if the Bible says I'm wrong, then I'm wrong. Ellen says scrutinize. Ellen says to unpack the truth. Ellen says the truth will withstand scrutiny. So my point is that the church says that, but then as soon as you, even from the pew, say what you've said today, oh, I think, brothers and sisters, let's look at what the Bible says. And I've got some questions. I think Ellen may have been wrong. Goodbye, Mark Anthony. It's over for you. And you know that because you've gone anonymous.
Yeah. Have you ever heard about the Worldwide Church of God by
Yes,
William
yeah,
Armstrong?
I'm very familiar with it. I dated
Yeah.
I dated a girl who was going through the when they split, and she ended up
Yeah.
with the side that changed.
Yeah.
I know all
Look what
about it.
ha Yeah, look what happened to that church. The minute they found that Armstrong was just spouting his mouth, the whole church collapsed.
So here's the thing, Mark. So
You would
what?
like the
So
SDA
what?
church to collapse?
If it's built on the inability to allow people to explore the Bible and find Bible truths, yes. Yes. Now, look, Schley has said a really good point. He goes, he has dismantled Adventism in 4 minutes and can't see it. Unbelievable. Um, and Andy says, Schley, the brainwashing is strong with this one, with a slight Star Wars reference.
What
So
about the other one
I'm just
before?
saying
What is he
that
saying?
you've cleverly dismantled Adventism in 4 minutes, but can't see it. Hey, look,
Oh,
just
okay, yeah.
hold that thought. I've just had a little puppy dog disaster here. Guys, give me 5 minutes. I'll be right back.
No
Brilliant
problem.
conversation. I'm loving it. We'll be right back. That gives you a couple of minutes to come back with a good answer. See you in a minute, everyone.
Sure, no problem.
You love me so much more than I could ever know. Your love is deeper than this world will ever show. And all of life's beauty shines around this moment now. The sky and the cliffs, they seem to change my life somehow. And I will never be the same, will never be the same. Whoa, I will never be the same, never be the same ever again. Well, here I am waiting, Lord, my life is just for you. Please unfold all the plans that you would have me do. And if all the world's just a breath and nothing's here to stay, then all of the love we feel will save us anyway. And I will never be the same, never be the same. Whoa, I will never be the same, never be the same ever again.
SDAQ&A, a former Adventist looking in from the outside.
And we're back.
Yeah.
Sorry about that. We've got a little mini fox terrier, and she's an escape artist, and I could just hear my daughter out there trying to stop the dog escaping through a little hole in the fence it's found. So I had to run off. Sorry about that. Now,
That's no problem.
yeah, so back to what we're talking about. My suggestion is that the Adventist Church has got some problems for people within it who want to simply say, Ellen White said it's okay to scrutinize her teachings versus the Bible. And if the Bible says one thing, then she says, then the Bible is right. Put the Bible first, which is a beautiful, intention to have. But the reality is that when that is put to the test in nearly 200 years, it has never proven to be a valuable thing to do. Your anonymity today proves that. This is not a benign religion. What are your thoughts on that?
The closest I can get to what you're talking about is this comment by Sinaj Lynch Liu. You're seeing it?
I'd have to go looking. Is it
At
recently?
2151, 951. Samaj Lynch Liu, Lin Liu.
Can you read it out for me?
Okay.
Oh, here, Mark is who?
A
Is that the one?
coward. No. Mark is a
she.
coward.
Well, see, I would disagree with that.
Yeah.
My point. Oh, here it is. I can see. Yeah,
If you don't,
well, this is what I'm saying. This, just because someone does ad hominem back to you doesn't dissuade me from my point. I would just say that this Samaj Lin Lu, Mark is a coward. If you don't believe what is foundation of Adventism, how could you consider yourself an SDA? You could leave the church and find another place. I don't think she is, intending to be offensive. She's saying, if you have found conclusively that Ellen White is in error, even though she has claimed that that error came to her as a vision confirmed by God, she's saying, why don't you leave the church as an option?
because they're my friends there.
Right.
That's the simple reason.
Can I
make
share?
friends yeah, go ahead.
Can I share? I've been pondering a lot lately. I'll just see if this works. I've made claims for about 8 years that the church really is two in one. That
Yeah.
after questions on doctrine in the late 50s, where it wanted to be perceived as a mainstream, normal Christian movement, that was met with such anti, from your M.L. Andreassens, your Fords, everything grew out of that, and the church split theologically. There's a lot of evidence I've produced, and a lot of people agree that generally speaking, the church split in two. Recently, when I will say, hey, this is the official Adventist view, a lot of Adventists, including yourself possibly, will say, hey, that's not my Adventism. And that's okay. But what I've done is I've made a little Venn diagram flowchart thing, which helps to visualize what I'm saying a bit more. So I'm essentially saying, really, there are four main groups within the Seventh-day Adventist Church, but really only two different theologies. So we've got our traditional Adventists, which is, your Ellenist and your concerned brethren and people who say, let's get back to the pioneer Adventism. Then you've got your progressive Adventists, which are your liberal, revisionist, big tent. Hey, that's not my Adventism kind of Seventh-day Adventist. You've got the leadership is a third group of all its own, I've realized. They're very much, a network that they've got there. They've got families dating back. Good luck getting into top level Adventist leadership if you're not connected with a family connection in some way. And they try and keep both sides happy and make sure the money keeps coming in. In the middle there is this, and the reason I'm showing this is because you've just said essentially you are a cultural Adventist. And what I like and respect about what you're doing is you're really just admitting that. You're just saying, look, I don't believe Ellen was right with this. I believe that she got that Daniel 8 and 9 wrong. I don't believe her assessment that 1844 is accurate, and I don't believe God even told her that. And that puts you in the position of a cultural Adventist. And I'm in two minds. Help me. I'm glad to have you on the show because I want you to help me work through this.
Sure. After
If
this, you'll never ask
if
that question again.
who knows? I don't have a very good memory. If this was an assessment of, say, in Australia, the Anglican Church, we have the high Anglican, the low Anglican, traditional, progressive, all on different sides. And then you have cultural Anglicans in the middle who just love going to church. They don't care about the big, theological debates. They don't care about the other stuff. And I would probably, if I was an Anglican, I'd go, cool, I'm a cultural Anglican. So what? My point, if you're a cultural Adventist, is you have to at least have on your radar this notion that by even being a cultural Adventist, you have to have some sense of responsibility to the children and the people coming into the church, and how your false prophet may lead these innocents into dangerous waters that would not happen in an Anglican church or a Baptist church or a Uniting church. There's dangerous waters, but not based on bold theological claims. And I'm saying that
Okay.
Ellen, any way you slice it, has made a very bold theological claim that has some pretty serious ramifications.
Okay. One, when you say dangerous waters, what do you mean?
Well, I know many Adventists, and some don't like to admit it, who have been deeply scarred by notions of close of probation. Am I good enough? Have I just remembered a sin, but my probation is closed? There's some dark, dangerous waters. I have two daughters. One doesn't go to an Adventist school. She's homeschooled in Montessori. And the other one goes to an Adventist school. I love the school. I think it's a really great place of education, but it occasionally has pastors coming through. They speak for worship. I have to debrief her in the evenings after those programs because she's a sensitive, smart, intelligent little girl. She's 12. And I have to guide her out of the dark waters that she has been put into during that session of that day, where she's wondering about sin. Has she got a sin that she forgot to ask forgiveness for? Will her whole eternal life, will that be affected by that, Daddy? There are thousands and thousands, perhaps millions of people that can share those concerns.
So there are about 22 million SDA on books. Let us say there are 9 million in attendance. So 9 million are in dark waters. Is that your suggestion?
No, I'm saying that 9 million have oases or little islands that, for example, you inhabit. And if they come in and land on that island, this is a good way to look at it. Imagine a big lake of murky, dark water. And imagine there's 10 or 20 nice little safe islands on there. In Adventism, I'm saying those islands are smaller, fewer, and far between inside that big lake of dark, murky water. Other religions have bigger land masses where people who come in are less likely to go into the murky water. The chances of falling into murky water when someone like Ted Wilson is wanting to release 1 billion copies of The Great Controversy and almost daily does programs pushing the pioneer belief system, I'm saying Adventism is much harder to stop people falling into those murky waters. That's my theory.
Yeah, it's a very good theory. Be protective of your daughters. I support you 100%, 110%. But for the rest of us, we can live on those islands.
That doesn't appear to be true when you look at the numbers, though. The Adventist Church has somewhere between 40 and 60% of its youth leaving. There's a
Yeah, but
really
that's not
there's a
that's
high leaving rate and there's a high fear rate.
yeah, but that's not peculiar to SDA. That's across Christianity. In fact, across religion.
That's true.
People are just losing faith. So what is the church to do?
That's true.
Those who, yeah, go ahead.
No, it's true. I'm agreeing with you. I would say, though, that inside the Adventist church, mine isn't just an anecdotal story. I think the numbers suggest that there is less assurance of salvation for people within this side the Adventist church than there are in other Protestant movements. I think John Den is watching,
Okay.
and John, if you are watching,
Um,
tomorrow I'm presenting your show that I did with you 5 years ago on Des Ford. Can you join me? But John Den talks about a study that was done recently where I think 70% of pastors, Adventist pastors, were unable to say that they felt assured of their salvation. I'm just simply saying that to me, from the
yeah,
research I've done, the numbers that I've studied, I think that raising young people in the Adventist church is more dangerous than in your normal Protestant movement. It's
but
considerably more.
did John ask the follow-up question, why?
It's
Or
an
are you going
actual
to discuss that
study.
tomorrow?
I hope that he sees it because I really want to chat with him about it. He
Yeah,
has posted about it. It's a full study, I think, done at Andrews recently. If John's watching, hopefully he can share a link. But I think there were follow-up questions. Look, and you're right. I'm glad we're having this discussion. People do need to go, well, are these numbers true? What were they asking? Statistics can be used to make up any kind of, claim, it's just,
right. The reason I asked is because of the investigative judgment. It's not that they lack the assurance of salvation. It's that they're saying is that it depends on the investigative judgment.
which
So
do you believe in the
they cannot
investigative
say
judgment?
for sure. No,
Do
I
you?
don't. And that's the other presentation I wanted to do tonight.
Yes, and we will come
No,
to
it
that.
wouldn't take long. It's just 5, 10
Yeah,
minutes.
yeah.
Yeah,
Well, you
right.
already disproved the 2,300 days in 4 minutes. So I'm looking forward to the next part.
Right.
Well, let's pause that. We'll come back to this part of the conversation later, and I will always come back to it and always challenge you and ask you. But that's all right. That's fine.
I thought I provided a convincing answer,
No,
Peter.
you haven't convinced
I
me.
thought, well, what more can I do? Let me tell you before we move.
I think that some people,
Yeah,
I think
yeah,
that maybe, and this is a bold assertion, that if Mark Anthony
yeah.
was a Mormon and came across the evidence that proved Joseph Smith was a false prophet, I think you would stay being a Mormon. That's what I
Yeah,
want to
and
address. Because I think you would agree, looking at Mormonism, that it's probably a little bit more dangerous to raise children in than your grassroots Protestant church. That's my point.
yeah, and the Jehovah's Witness as well.
Adventists, Jehovah's Witnesses, and Mormons, those three, danger. Will
Yeah,
Robinson, danger.
yeah, and they're based in false prophecies.
And
But
so is Adventism. Adventism's official belief is based on false prophecy. What does
let
the
me tell
Bible tell you
you
to
who
do?
you're.
What does the Bible tell you to do when faced with a false prophet? Run a
Let me
mile.
tell you. Okay, let me tell you who you remind me of, Peter. And I'd like you to listen to me out to the end. Don't cut
I
me
won't
off.
interrupt. I won't interrupt.
Okay, right. I'll tell you when I finish. 1 minute.
Go.
You remind me of Judas. Judas wanted to get rid of Roman rule. And Jesus was saying, no, in the fullness of time, they are doing a certain work. And Judas betrayed Jesus. You remind me of Judas. You want to get rid of SDA rule. You want to get rid of it. But God is saying to you through me, let it stand. It will fall under its own weight. You don't need to throw it or overthrow it. Don't do anything. It will fall under its own weight. Every time people come out and speak against these doctrines, it's chipping away at their influence, and they know it. So I don't have to worry. I don't have to overthrow anything. I just have to bide my time and watch the end as it will come. For sure, I know it will come. Now, does that convince you?
Can I speak?
Does that convince you?
No, not at all. Like what you're creating there is both gaslighting and a straw man argument. Just because you see a parallel with Judas and Jesus and me being Judas doesn't mean that there are other examples of people who opposed Rome, spoke up about it, and were considered to be doing the right thing. The other example, Jesus opposed what was being done in the temple and went in and turned the tables over. So if you weren't straw manning me or gaslighting my situation, you could possibly say, Peter, you remind me of Jesus, not Judas, because you are seeing a problem here in the temple of Seventh-day Adventism, and you're going in and turning over the tables. You see what I'm saying?
Okay, let's take your example. Okay, so Peter, you remind me of Jesus. Go into the temple and overthrow everything. What happened to Jesus?
Well, again,
You see, I'm
so
answering you
so what?
convincingly, but you don't want to be convinced.
I
You want to
I
die. Okay, well,
I
I
so
don't
what?
want to die.
Yeah,
I value
okay.
my life.
I
You,
if
you want to die?
if like if turning over the tables in the Adventist church, which I don't think I'm trying to destroy or destruct, I'm simply trying to agitate. Ellen White says, agitate, agitate, agitate. So I'm following Ellen White, I'm following Jesus, I'm turning the tables just to agitate, to stimulate thought. That's another way of looking at it. You can present, and so can I. We could go back and forth for an hour presenting examples that make us look good or bad, depending on what angle we want to take. My
No, I'm
point
making you look
is,
good. I'm making you look good. I'm comparing you to Jesus.
well, you compare
Overthrow
me
the
to
town. Go
Judas,
in.
then compare me to
Go.
Jesus.
Go into the general conference and overthrow everything. See what will happen.
I'm not overthrowing. I'm agitating.
Okay.
I'm stirring the
Oh,
pot.
okay.
There's a really good book by De Bono, something about hats. And he says that healthy movements encourage people like me to be dissidents. They encourage people to put on the hat of being a dissident, an agitator, a pot stirrer. You do that. Like your footprint within SDAQ&A is very much an agitator of thought. I love that. Now, you calling me a Judas, I think you can tell. I actually embrace the opportunity to engage with that kind of allegation. I think that gives me a fantastic opportunity to further share what it is I am doing, rather than put me in a corner of being angry or upset. It does the opposite. I really value the way you agitate. I appreciate that.
Okay.
And
Thank
I
you very
think I
much.
think
And I value. I think before long, you will be remembered as a person who will bring SDA down. With all these interviews you're doing with these well-established, well-experienced individuals, scholars, your name will go down in history.
let me promise you something. How old are you? Are you quite young?
No, I'm 55 years old.
Oh, you're older than I thought. I promise you, anyone that's say 20 or 30 watching this, if it's still on YouTube in 50 years' time, after I'm dead and gone, I will be forgotten. And I embrace that. I don't want to be remembered. That might seem strange that I'm creating this footprint of conversations. I am actually, I could share with you several stories of where I've been involved with something that's been quite an event, and I've been forgotten. And I learned it at a young age that I actually love that. So I'm glad that that my dissident, stirring, agitating can stimulate thought and get conversations going. But that's all I hope it does. I don't hope I'm remembered. I hope the conversations of stirring the pot are remembered, because I think that's where healthy minds flourish. I just am one person trying to have a healthy mind in a pool of darkness that I was birthed into, fortunately, here at Avondale, where it was one of those nice oasis islands with very solid walls, and people like Des Ford and my father and, um, Norm Young and a bunch of others were creating a very interesting environment for, we were the children of these, the Des Fords and those guys.
Yeah.
So, I'm lucky. I have good memories and I have some bad memories, but I also
Right.
have stepped back and I'm seeing a big picture of a problem here. And I think Adventism, Mormonism, and Jehovah's Witnesses fall into the same dangerous pot. Now, that doesn't mean that I'm trying to bring them down. I'm just saying more people like Mark Anthony speaking up publicly and stirring the pot for change. Stephen Beagles also. I think that's fantastic that he publicly puts his name to saying Ellen White was wrong on things. The more that can happen, the better. But at the moment, Adventism does not present as a healthy institution for dialogue.
There is one thing I remember about you, and that is a certain statement you made concerning the tapes that you had of Desmond Ford. You said you were determined, no matter what, to bring that to the fore, put it out
Yes.
in public, and you spent a lot of time and a lot of effort to get it done. He would
Yes.
not die in obscurity.
He won't.
What I imagine that somebody looking on at you, maybe your daughters, will say, "My father will not die in obscurity. We will resurrect and keep
I
these tapes
will I will be
going
training them
forever."
to let me die in obscurity. Believe me. I swear, hand on heart, I have no desire for legacy or
Yeah,
being remembered, and I chat with them about this kind of thing. And I am very glad that I've had the opportunity to let, not the message of Des Ford. I'm not promoting his message. I'm promoting his right to be heard in a
yeah,
denomination that has tried to suppress him.
yeah,
I'm not
yeah,
saying, hey, everyone believe what Des says. I'm saying, hey, everyone listen and decide for yourself, because the Adventist Church is going to try and crush you if you disagree with Ellen White. I'm
right.
one of the reasons I wanted you on today and was so excited that you were going to share your thoughts on Daniel and the investigative judgment coming up. I'm looking forward to that. Is I want people to hear that message, whether they disagree with you or not. In a short amount of time, what you say totally discredits these two big doctrines.
Yeah, but even though you're modest, I think you will be remembered. Even if you do it, I will do it. I will search for all your tapes and say, "I was in this program. You had better listen to at least me."
Yeah, I'm happy to be a. Who was I talking to about this? I can't remember. Might have been Frank Marandino, because we have our weekly gospel good news fellowship, um, and I said to him, I said, what I aim for is having people in the group, which might be a loosely fenced off area, and they are offering the pastoral care, the guidance, the good news message, and then you've got the people inside the community that are enjoying it, partaking of it. And I said that, but I'm the person that's kind of just holding the fence together and the gate. And he said, or it might have been Andrew Ormiston said, there's actually a biblical reference of that, where there are people that do that. So that's really all I'm trying to do, is to offer a space that is not curated too much, but that allows people to come in and partake of interesting dialogue and discussions. So
Oh, I
whether I'm
see.
remembered or not is not the point.
Mhm. Okay.
I'm just the guy that
Okay.
created the fenced off area.
So- Well, that's acceptable. And I wish you not that you should die or this legacy should go to waste, but in spite of what you say, I believe it should be kept alive.
I believe it
That's
should
the
be
nice
kept
thing.
alive for sure.
Yeah.
I took a girl on a date once at Avondale. They had what they called the reverse tea, where the girls asked the guys, and everything was backwards. They had the dessert came out first and whatever, and I sang at it and had a great time. Bought her flowers. And literally a week or two later, I was walking across campus and I bumped into her. She was coming across one of the paths there, and I was walking the other way. And we just stopped, and I said, "How you going?" And she said, "Good." And she said, "Did you enjoy the other night at the reverse tea?" And I said, "Yeah, yeah. Did you enjoy it?" And then she looked me in the eyes and she said, "Yeah, it was fantastic. Who did you go with?" She had literally forgotten that she'd gone with me. And I said, "You
I'm
went with
sorry,
me.
Peter.
I
I'm
took
sorry.
you." No, no. What that was brilliant for a young man to experience. I think I was
Uh,
19 or 20. What was great is it made me go, "Oh, it doesn't matter about being remembered. What is important is enjoying the community and the experience." And I've got lots of stories like that. Um, but I'm happy if people say, "Hey, look, go and check out. There's that guy. I don't know his name, but he does that show where he's interviewing interesting people." I'm happy for that to go on. That's one of the things I'm excited about re-releasing season 2. All the Des Ford stuff of that season and Glacier View revealing what really went on has only been available in the private group. But now every week we put out another episode onto YouTube, so it's there in the public realm. I'm very keen for that stuff to be remembered. For sure. Well, shall we move
um,
on to the next
do you
part of
know
your
the
presentation?
yeah, but before you go, do you know how come I
Yeah.
ended up on this show today? I saw you were asking Chris Lucas. You remember him?
Yes. Yes.
You were
Yes.
asking him to be right, and he said he was busy. He had to work.
Yes, that's right.
So right. I'm looking at this and I'm saying, I'm going to help this man out. Maybe he has nobody, so I'm just going to come on. So I'm a
Awesome.
substitute. Yeah,
You're
I'm
the
just a
scapegoat.
substitute. Maybe, but I just thought to let you know.
I love how that sort of stuff happens serendipitously. I don't view it as a
Oh,
substitute. I view it as, yeah, that's great. It's an opportunity that just took place randomly, but it is no less important than anything else that I've discussed.
okay, so let's go on.
Yes. So just give people a bit of background of what we're going to be now looking at.
Um, as I told you, I write. I like writing, and I have a little poem I'd like to share with you before. So,
Yes. And if I disappear again, I've got the volume up loud. I'm just going to be fixing the dog again, but I'm not going to put a break on. You just keep going.
okay, no problem.
Far away. Are you there still?
Yeah, are you seeing it?
Oh, yes. Here we go.
Right. Now you like to be liked, right?
I don't mind. I'm
Right.
often not liked. What I do encourages every possible thing you could imagine towards me.
Okay, Facebook and me. I want to be liked, not merely scanned or seen upon a swipe. I want to be liked. How bees seek flowers? Well, a lot like that. I want to be liked for all replies and all I post on here. Yes, praised, adored, be read, discussed, and shared. No strange ideas or wrong opinions or pointing out mistakes. I really, truly only want just that's why I posted Facebook.
That's very interesting.
What you think?
I think if that's a representation of how you are, that's great. I certainly wouldn't write a poem like that. I think it's well written. I think it really embraces your opinion, but that is not what I seek in life. Honestly, if I wanted to
Oh.
be liked, I wouldn't do SDAQ&A.
So you don't do it to be liked. You do it to
I'm not
be to
I'm not
share.
criticizing you.
Oh, okay.
Say that again.
You're not.
Well, I just
You're
find
not
myself
doing.
in a situation where
Uh,
I find myself in a situation where a lot of people don't like me, and I'm okay with that. And I find there's a situation where a lot of people do like me, and that's
oh.
nice. I'm not saying I want people to not like me. I'm just saying I don't seek being liked. And I'm in a situation where I could read you something a
So
lady
wouldn't you
wrote me
like
this week.
a viewer?
I had a lady write to me this week. I literally would not be able to read it on a family show.
Yeah.
No, I couldn't. It's like every second word is the
Okay.
worst kind of swear words you can imagine. Now, this is not just some troll. This is a person I know.
Yeah.
So my point is that I
Yeah.
don't seek
Well,
to
that's
be
bad.
liked. I am liked and I am disliked.
But would you like this video? Would you like 100,000 views?
I don't care. I honestly don't care.
You don't care.
I can tell you that I'm
Okay.
enjoying this conversation as much as my conversation with George Knight, which did get thousands of views.
Well, I want this video to be
I am sadly
100,000
the worst thing for me being a musician was that I'm easily satiated. I did a tour of New Zealand one time, and the lady got the date wrong, the promoter, and so the night I was in town, that particular town, her father and her two kids were the only one in the audience, and my band and we just did the full show as normally would, and I felt really happy. If I post a picture on Facebook and I get 3 likes or I get 100 likes, I'm easily, and that's a flaw for a musician because musicians usually crave being liked and they are more successful. I've come to the end of my career and I go, well, I had a good time, but I wasn't that successful.
Yeah.
And that's okay.
I suppose when you're young, Facebook mentality appeals to you. You're reflected. You want to be known. You want to be famous. Suppose when you're young, you're like that. But if you pass a certain age, you don't care. But moving on.
But I just to
break,
hold you on that
and then
point there. No, not at all. No, not at all. Just to hold your feet to the fire on that last one there. I'm not just saying this as some kind of false humility. I genuinely am happy if no one watched today and this was just a private conversation with me. I am satiated by this kind of dialogue. I'm happy to put out some music and sell three albums. I'm happy to do a gig and get 5 people or 100 people. I don't mind. I live in a world where I am seriously hated to the point of being called, a spawn of Satan, to people really loving me. I'm in this world of everything you can imagine is put on me, and I'm okay with that, because here's the secret: is in the middle of that, I know who I am, and that's why I go to sleep happy at night, because I might have had a day where I've been really disliked, or I might have had a day where I've been really liked, but none of that moves my North Star anchor. I feel very grounded in my identity. And to be honest, that has really come about in full strength in the last 5 years, and in the last 9 years since leaving the Adventist Church. Something has shifted in me that has literally made me happier. I don't have all the answers. I have way more people disliking me, but I don't seek, I don't strive. I just wake up and I present my creativity. Take it or leave it. I just only push back a little
Well,
bit, because I'm not sure if your poem is trying to say that that's somehow I'm trying to do that, and all that I do is somehow seeking some kind of popularity. Because honestly, you would not do. There are other ways to be liked, and SDAQ&A is putting yourself in a position to be greatly disliked. Like that guy saying that my content was poison to thousands of his followers. Does that make sense?
okay. Now you see, you strive. What is it you said? You don't strive. You don't.
I don't strive.
As a
I've got nothing to prove. I just wake up.
beautiful. Right, right. You see that attitude? That's a maturity. That is mine. When I go into the Seventh-day Adventist Church congregation, I don't strive. I don't seek to. I know who my friends are. And that's it. And
Yeah,
that's how I survive.
but you've written a poem that I want to be liked.
The good and the bad.
Each line of your
Yeah.
poem starts with, I
Well,
want to be liked. I want to be liked. I want to be
everybody.
liked. So what you might be doing is finding a safe space. You might be finding yourself a safe space where you are liked, because you're not pushing the boundaries. You're not giving yourself a chance to be disliked.
Yeah.
And I'm saying that by giving yourself a chance to be disliked,
One day I'll upturn.
as well as liked,
Yeah.
you find out your true identity. So you might not be striving in your bubble, but try being who you really are, and put yourself out there in a potential situation of being disliked. And I promise you will be challenged, but you will come to an eventual conclusion that that's a better place to be. Not in your little bubble of cultural Adventism that just feels nice and warm and fuzzy.
Okay. So
Like, I hope that one day,
this
a year's
question.
time, you come on with your face on here, because then
Okay.
you will be disliked,
Okay.
and that
But
will be a benefit to you.
If let us say you're my psychologist, you're my psychiatrist, and I come to you for counseling, what would you recommend? Is that what you recommend? That's what you recommend?
No, I said to you, I hope that in a year's time you'd be able to come on here, show your face, and be in a position to be disliked. I mistakenly said that I believed that is what people should do, and I encouraged people to do it. And I got so much pushback that I realized, hang on, that was an unwise thing of me to say, because the reality is that people are so connected to their self-worth and their identity that if they put themselves in a dangerous situation of being disliked when they aren't ready to be disliked, it's bad. So I don't think you're ready yet to do that. But I hope that one day Mark Anthony will come on with his face and his real name and say, I've got some things to say that I disagree with about Ellen G. White. I'm still an Adventist, but here we are. Because in that moment, you're going to be disliked so much, but you're going to be liked a lot as well. A lot of the comments are saying that you're speaking in a way that is putting Ellen White in her place in the most powerful way, but you're not seeing it as something that you really want to follow through with. So that cognitive dissonance that you are exhibiting is on display. And I'm just saying that when you put yourself in a realm where you are willing to let go of the dissonance, the cognitive dissonance, be in a situation to be disliked, for some people, and I hope you're one of them, you will find great sense of who you really are because you've been challenged. But if it's too much for you and anyone else, I'm not criticizing it. You know, I was the cultural Adventist as well. I was happy to just to kind of say my stuff a little bit behind the scenes and put a few little jibes out there at a gig between songs and stuff like that. I saw myself as being the quiet revisionist and revolutionary person. You might not be able to cope with being disliked.
I think what you're recommending is what Ryan Day should have done. Kept quiet, and he would have been general manager still. But I
No,
see that you accuse
I'm
you
not saying that.
you are accusing me of suffering from cognitive dissonance.
You are.
Peter, I will always remember that.
Good.
Peter Dixon said, "I'm suffering from cognitive
I didn't say you're suffering.
dissonance."
I'm saying that you.
So am I.
I'm saying you're exhibiting signs of a person who has cognitive dissonance.
Okay, let's move on. Yeah, shall we?
Yes. Okay.
How much of Daniel 8 do you know?
I don't know it as well as I should. I know more about 1844, the investigative judgment, and the close of probation than 90% of people on the planet. I don't know enough about Daniel and Revelation.
Okay, so do you know the visions of Daniel 8? Can you tell me?
Yes.
Like,
Yes.
what is it like?
What do you
What are the
mean?
visions? Just
No, I
tell me in
don't.
a brief way the visions.
I
I
couldn't tell
wanna
you.
I don't want to read out the whole thing.
All,
That's what I was trying to
well, all I
get
know
to.
about Daniel is that he had visions saying that certain things were going to happen. And then I've
Okay.
read some things that say that it's in two parts. And when people
Yeah.
discovered these historical visions, that actually the second part was written before the first part. So that's how I think about these things. I go, what are his visions pertaining to? And ultimately, his visions were about things that were going to occur to the people at that time or in the near future. They had nothing to do with 1844 in our current situation. Does that help?
Okay. All right, no problem. Then I'll have to read it through quickly, so that because it will only make sense if you
Yes.
understand the visions.
I think it's
Yeah.
important to make sure, because like I say, I'm not au fait with Daniel 8 and 9, Revelation. I'm wanting you to school me today. You did really well in the first part of the program. I learnt so much in that 4 minutes, and I want to learn more now. So please set the scene and then talk about the next part of your presentation.
Okay.
I'm listening. I'll just be out of the picture for a second.
Sure, no problem.
Carry on. Can you hear me, Mark?
Yep.
You go ahead. I'm just out of the picture for a second. I can hear you
Sure,
though.
no problem. Yeah. Uh, Daniel 8. There are a couple of things I'd like to discuss called expressions of interest before I start reading. But seeing that Peter is away, I will just say this here. This is Ellen White speaking. Let me see if you're seeing. At the time appointed for the judgment, at the time appointed for the judgment, the close of the 2300 days in 1844, began the work of investigation and blotting out of sins. All who have ever taken upon themselves the name of Christ must pass its searching scrutiny. Both the living and the dead are to be judged out of those things which are written in the books according to their works. Ellen White, Great Controversy, chapter 28, page chapter 28, page 486, 1. That's not true. Neither the 2300 days, the year 1844, nor the work of investigation and blotting out of sins. All are false ideas based on an erroneous understanding of Daniel chapter 8. It's my intention today, amidst the loud and defensive clamor of SDA apologists, to show good reasons why. Daniel 8 has two visions. One about the ram, the goat, and a notable little horn that grows exceedingly tall. Then, heavenly beings in conversation about the ram, goat, and horn. The first is called the Kazon, a sight, a dream, a revelation, an oracle. That is, what Daniel saw and was supposed to understand was history foretold in symbolic form. Two animals and a talking horn. The second is called the Mare, also a vision, but what he saw in real time, the glorious beings talking to each other about the Kazon. For the sake of clarity, and for the record, I'll now present in New King James versions the visions and interpretation given by Gabriel, highlighting the underlying Hebrew where appropriate. So all I said, Peter, was that this here is not true. This here is the structure of Daniel 8. You have the symbolic form vision, the ram, the goat, and the little horn. And then you have the two angels are talking. Now it's something like this. You recognize this picture here, Peter?
Yes, I do.
Who is the man in the middle there?
That is me.
Right. And you know who these two are.
My two
Well,
gorgeous daughters.
right. We are both looking at what is happening on stage here. And later on, they will turn around and tell me about that man. Well, Daniel 8 is like that. You will see a ram, a goat, and a little horn on a stage like, and then two angels will be talking about that little horn there. So now you get the picture, and now we can begin. In the third year of the reign of King Belshazzar, a vision, a kazon appeared to me, Daniel, after the one that appeared to me the first time. I saw in the vision, and it was so happened that while I was looking, that I was in Shushan the citadel, which is in the province of Elam, and I saw in the vision that I was by the river Ulai. Now this is in the days of Babylon. The Medes and Persians have not come as yet. And this is what is going to be shown. I'm not going to read it. People don't like to hear what other people are reading, so I'm just going to talk.
Mhm.
This ram here is going to be pushing westward, southward, and northward, enjoying its domination. And from the west, a goat is going to come with a single horn and is going to trample this ram and destroy it. And this horn that this goat possesses, it will break, and 4 horns will come up in its place. And out of those 4 horns will come a little horn. And that is the subject of our discussion. The male horn grew very great, but when he became strong, the large horn was broken. And in place of it, 4 notable ones came up toward the 4 winds of heaven. And out of them came a little horn which grew exceedingly great, toward the south, toward the east, and toward the glorious land. And it grew up to the host of heaven, and it cast down some of the hosts and some of the stars to the ground, and trampled them. He even exalted himself as high as the prince of the host. And by him the daily sacrifices were taken away, and the place of his sanctuary was cast down. Because of transgression, an army was given over to the horn to oppose the daily sacrifices, and he cast truth down to the ground. He did all this and prospered. Now, there are a couple of things I want you to notice. An army was given to the horn to oppose the daily sacrifices. And then, by him, the daily sacrifices were taken away. So first he's going to oppose the daily sacrifice, and then he's going to take it away. And he is operating in the glorious land with the sanctuary, where the sanctuary is. So he's operating in the glorious land where the sanctuary is. He's going to oppose the daily sacrifice, then take them away. Good, so we get the picture. Now, 2 angels seeing that, just as Daniel was seeing it, 2 of them seeing the same thing. They are going to start talking. This is called the Mare, the vision of glorious beings. Then I heard a holy one speaking, and another holy one said to that certain one speaking, how long the Kazon, how long this vision that we just saw? But then he limits it. The daily, the transgression of desolation, the giving of both the sanctuary and the host to be trampled underfoot. How long would that go on for, this little horn's activities? And the answer came back, that famous line, for 200, 300 days, then shall the sanctuary be cleansed. The word is not days, you know. The word there is irabokar, evening, morning. So he's saying, and he said to me, for 2,300, evening, morning, then the sanctuary shall be cleansed. And this is going to become very important later on. Remember, this is the Mare. The Mare. Now, somebody is going to ask Gabriel to explain this vision. And so Gabriel is going to come and explain it to him. And he's going to say, look, I'm making known to you what will happen in the latter time of the indignation. For the appointed time the end shall be. The ram which you saw having the 2 horns, they are the kings of Media and Persia. So the ram is the kings of Media and Persia with the 2 horns, And the male goat is the kingdom of Greece. The large horn is the large horn that is between his eyes, the first king. So the 2 horns is the kings of Media and Persia, and the 1 horn is the first king of Greece. As for the broken horn and the 4 that stood up in its place, 4 shall arise out of that nation, but not with its power. Now this is common history lesson. Everybody knows Babylon, Medo, Persia, Greece, blah, blah, blah. But is what he's going to say next that is causing the controversy. And in the latter time of their kingdom, when the transgressors have reached their fullness, a king shall arise. Who is this king, Peter? Who is this king? In the vision. Can you
I've
tell me?
no, I have no idea.
No idea. The king is a little horn, Peter. I thought I was teaching. Now I
So
have to go
that's
and
why
get another certificate.
I'm
I
seeking clarification.
I have to go and renew my certificate in education.
I
This
know it was
king is a little horn.
I know it was the little horn, but I thought you meant who is the little horn.
Oh, okay. This king. Well, then my certificate is intact.
It is
A
intact.
king shall arise. Now, the question is, when will the king arise? When the transgressors have reached their fullness. He's telling you. He's giving you the answer. The king will arise in 1844 or 538 or 2025. The king will arise when the transgressors have reached their fullness. So the next question is, who are the transgressors? And when do they reach their fullness? So you have three questions. When will the king arise? Who are the transgressors? And when will the transgressors reach their fullness? So we can answer some of those questions because he's going to provide the answer. Anyway, he's going to tell you a lot of things about this king. He's going to destroy people and so forth. But there's an interesting part that he mentions here. He shall even rise against the prince of princes. Can you guess who is this prince of princes? Just a wild guess out of the blue. Who is the
Well,
prince of princes?
I think you might be saying it's Jesus.
Right. That's
I,
correct.
I
There is
I'm
only.
saying I would disagree with that.
Why would you disagree?
Well, I don't think Daniel was talking at all about the foreshadowing of Christ coming and the Messiah. He was talking about what was going on with the people at the time and what he thought was probably going to happen in his lifetime. And
Okay.
is he, how many hundred years before the time of Christ was Daniel writing this?
I think it was about 490 years, about 500 years.
Right.
Yeah, right. So, you see, why I wanted to establish this is the Prince of Princes, because there is only one Prince of Princes. Everybody is a prince, but there's only one who is above all. But anyway, you will see. But remember this:
Well, what
when
can
the
I just
trans,
say something there just quickly? Like,
yeah, sure,
if you and I would draw a different conclusion, I wouldn't say he was talking about Jesus, but in your
okay,
refuting Ellen White, it works very
hmm
well for it to be about Jesus because that's what she was thinking as well. So with that in mind, we can keep going because it doesn't matter that I don't believe that at all, because what you're really doing is not refuting my claims, you're refuting Ellen White's claims.
right. So, well, I want to repeat this because it's so important. He's telling you when the horn will arise, when the transgressors have reached their fullness, and he will rise against the Prince of Princes. Remember that, Peter. Let it stick into your head. When any SDA come to you and say the horn is this and the horn is that and the horn is the other, ask them, when will the transgressors reach their fullness? Who are the transgressors? And that he will come against the Prince of Princes. Always remember that.
Well,
Anyway, we can go
that's a
on.
good question if you have an interest in debating Seventh-day Adventists on this one.
Okay.
But
Well,
because
even
my
if
premise is that it's not even talking about Jesus, therefore
okay,
mine's just an academic observation, not one that I would
okay,
delve into. So it's not that important to me.
okay. That's no problem.
But
But
it is
remember,
for
he's
this conversation and your refutation of what she claims, and how
right,
Adventists have got it wrong in that context.
right. Now, Adventists, they don't look at this here. They just blankly ignore it and develop their own ideology.
I
But
agree.
the angel is giving you on a platter. He's telling you, look, this is going to happen when. Anyway, so, and the vision of the Mare of the evenings and the mornings, that is, those two people talking, is true. Therefore, seal up the vision for it for the first many days in future. So he's telling him that idea of how long this horn will desecrate the sanctuary and oppose the daily and so forth. That is true. The length of time is true, but it's for some time in the future. As I said, the little horn will come when the transgressors have reached their fullness. And I, Daniel, fainted and was sick for many days. Afterward, I arose and went about the king's business. I was astonished by the conversation between the glorious ones, the Mare, the vision of heavenly beings, but no one understood it. So that is Daniel 8. So he doesn't understand this idea about sanctuary and all of that because he is in Babylon. There is nothing in Jerusalem. The sanctuary is destroyed, the city is destroyed, and everything. So in Daniel chapter 9, he is going to come across the book from Jeremiah that says, look, the time is almost up. 70 years in Babylon. You're going to go back, and the sanctuary is going to be rebuilt. But he's going to be praying for it. Well, I don't want to read this long prayer, but this is one of the prayers that really, really impressed me about Daniel. He's pouring his heart out to God. Please, it's like Jesus Christ. Forgive my people. Help us. Have mercy on us. We have sinned, yes, but don't take it out on us. Give us hope. It's really, really made an impression on me. Anyway, so he prays, and Gabriel comes and talks to him. And blah, 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 your people, blah, blah, blah. Yep. Gabriel comes and talks to him. So Gabriel came and he informed me, that is Gabriel, and talked with me and said, O Daniel, I have now come forth to give you skill to understand. At the beginning of your supplications, the command went out, and I've come to tell you, for you are greatly beloved. Therefore consider the matter and understand the Mare. That is why I said, keep in mind that those two beings talking about the 2300 days, that's the Mare. Now he's going to explain to him the 2300 evening mornings. Remember, on the 2300 evening mornings, then the sanctuary shall be cleansed. So, question: who are the transgressors? Can you tell me, Peter? 7 weeks are determined for your people and for your holy city. Who are the transgressors?
Those who don't believe in the little horn being Jesus, the Prince.
The transgressors are the Jews. This is why he's praying, Lord, we have transgressed. We have broken your law. We have suffered. We have gone into Babylon because of our sins. We are the transgressors. Second question is, when do the transgressors reach their fullness? Well, here is your answer. When 77s are expired. at the end of 400 years, 490 years. In other words, when the transgressors have reached their fullness, when the Jews have come to the end of the 70-week prophecy, then the little horn, the king, will arise. Good. You're going to see that little horn. 70 weeks are determined for your people and your holy city. I'm going to come back to that there. Know therefore and understand from the going forth of the command to restore and build Jerusalem until Messiah the Prince. See that? The Prince of Princes, the Anointed One, the Prince. Now, this is called a lexical twin because it seems as though it's talking about one person here, but it's two persons he's talking about. There shall be 7 weeks and 62 weeks. The street shall be built again, and the wall, and even in troublesome times. And after 62 weeks, that is in the last 7, when the transgressors have reached their fullness, when this is the end, the Messiah, the Anointed One, shall be cut off, but not for himself. And the people of the Prince who is to come, that is that little horn, shall destroy the city and the sanctuary. This is where the two of them meet. That is why I said you have to remember what Gabriel told Daniel in chapter 8. When the transgressors have reached their fullness, a king shall arise. This here is the king, the little horn, the prince who is to come, and he shall rise against the prince of princes. Is both of them appearing at the same time in the final week? Good. Then he shall confirm a covenant. This is for 1 week. This is the last period, the last 7 years. But in the middle of the week, he shall bring an end to sacrifices and offering. In other words, he shall take away the daily sacrifice. So these two have come head to head, and the prince will oppose the daily sacrifice until in the middle of the week he brings an end to sacrifice and offering. He shall take away the daily sacrifice. But in taking away the daily sacrifice, what does that mean? What is the significance of that? Well, as you know, this is the Messiah shall be cut off, but not for himself. He brings an end to sacrifice and offering. But in bringing an end to sacrifice and offering, he is the ultimate sacrifice. And being the ultimate sacrifice, this is why we get this here. To finish the transgression, to make an end of sins, to make reconciliation for iniquity, to bring in everlasting righteousness. In other words, to cleanse the sanctuary. This is what the cross means. This is what Calvary means. That after 2,300 evening morning, the sanctuary shall be cleansed. The little horn and the Messiah, they meet. One will die and the other will be removed from power and die in ignominy. Now, how come 2,300 evening morning could put us to the middle of the week? Do you know mathematics?
I'm a brilliant mathematician,
You're a brilliant
Mark.
mathematician.
Yes, it's one of my
Okay.
fortes.
2,300 evening mornings, as Gabriel will later say, is 2,300 evenings and mornings. 2,300 divided by 2 per day is 1,150 days. 1,150 divided by 30 days per month is 38.3333333 months. That amount divided by 12 months per year is 3.194 blah 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 years. And 3.194444 years is in the midst of the 7. The little horn will oppose the daily for 3 years thereabout, and then it will take away the daily. But in taking away the daily, he's putting an end to sacrifice and offering by the crucifixion of Christ. And the crucifixion of Christ means an end to sin. In other words, the cleansing of the sanctuary. So we see that this here, thank you very much. Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Just a little
So,
promotion there.
right. So you can see quite clearly where the angel Gabriel twice is giving him the answer to what he does not understand. The 2000 Daniel 8:14 refers to Daniel 9:27. This is what cleanses the sanctuary. Now, what do you know about the daily?
That it's confusing. And I held up that little promo for the white lie because if you're a Seventh-day Adventist and you teach Daniel 8 and 9, you're countering that teaching very well, thus confirming that Ellen White got it wrong. And sadly, she got it wrong over, even though God confirmed it in vision. So that's why I'm letting you preach this, so we can cut and paste this part of it, and any Adventist that needs to be schooled on this, it's fine. But for some of us, because we don't agree with the premise, it's a little bit difficult to listen to, because you're really preaching to an Adventist audience that does believe that. And so therefore for them, it would be quite a valuable lesson. But for those who have drawn different conclusions, it's a bit of an Adventist kind of echo chamber. But go on, because I think you're proving Ellen White incorrect very substantially.
Yeah, thank you very much. Now, the daily was offered morning and evening. So when he says the little horn will oppose the daily for 2,300 more evening morning, this is what he's talking about. Exodus 29:38. Now this is what you shall offer on the altar: 2 lambs of the first year, day by day, continually. 1 lamb you shall offer in the morning, and the other you shall offer in the evening. With 1 lamb shall be, this is the drink and the wine and so forth. So, this is the sacrifice, and this is the offering. Bring an end to sacrifice and offering. He shall take away the daily. Now, but who is this daily? Remember when Jesus was baptized, one of the things John made mention of to the disciples was this famous line here. Let me bring it up for you. The next day, John saw Jesus coming toward him, and he said, "Behold the Lamb of God who takes away the sin of the world." This here is the daily. This here is the ultimate daily. This here is the daily that was opposed for almost 3 years. And then at the end, he told his disciples, "Take this bread, it is my body given for you. Drink this blood, it is the blood of the new covenant shed for the remission of sins." In other words, he is the daily that has been taken away. He is the ultimate sacrifice. And the ultimate sacrifice means the sanctuary has been cleansed, the price for sin has been paid. Now, I want to ask you a question, Peter. When when Jesus died, what significant thing happened in the temple?
The curtain between the most holy and holy was torn asunder.
See, you're a Bible scholar. I like talking to people who know their Bibles. Makes it so much easier. I don't have to explain. And what does that opening of the veil means between the holy and the holy?
That
When does that happen?
there are now no longer two apartments, and there are no two phases to the ministry. Atonement was at the cross once and for all.
Right.
No need for
And
1844.
right. And when was that? Only when was that veil parted?
After the death.
On the Day of Atonement. Isn't
Atonement.
that so? Right.
Yes.
On the Day of Atonement. So it means that on Calvary, we experience two festivals rolled into one: the Passover and the Day of Atonement. The Passover, because those who believe in Christ will not die, they will go on to eternal life. And the Day of Atonement, because their sins have been forgiven them. That is why Gabriel said, 70 weeks are determined for your people and your holy city to finish the transgression. When I first saw this, when I was long ago, years, ages ago, before my time, before your time, when I first saw this, I suspected this was the Day of Atonement. It is only on the Day of Atonement that you have finished the transgressions to make an end of sins, to make reconciliation for iniquity. It is only then that everlasting righteousness could be brought in.
See what you've done there, though, and we'll have to wrap up the sermon part
Yeah,
pretty soon. But what you've done
yeah.
there is completely done away with 1844, and therefore, in my opinion, the complete unique specialness of the Seventh Adventist movement's claim, and that's why I struggle with people who know that, and you've done it conclusively. That's why I've let you to preach the topic to any Adventists that are watching, because you've concluded and confirmed with good research that 1844 and this ongoing atoning process is absolute rubbish, and so that's why I struggle with those who. But I appreciate that they say I'm a cultural Adventist, but I struggle with it because it's like, well, why would you put your name to something that is going to bring people into a great misunderstanding of what the simplicity of the gospel is? They enter into these murky waters I was talking about.
Well, I'll teach them when they come.
You cannot compete with Ted Wilson and the 1 billion great controversies, I'm afraid.
with God, all things are possible. If something is false, it will be exposed. Let me tell you something. Long ago, you know
But
what the Roman
it has
Catholics,
been exposed. But cults are good
yeah,
at
you know,
suppressing any change.
you know what the Roman Catholics used to do long ago? The priests used to sexually abuse the children. And I could imagine those children confused, used to be crying out to God, why? What's the meaning of this? Why am I going through this? Nobody said anything. You know what the Catholic Church used to do? Shift the priests around. You know that, don't you?
Hmm.
They used to shift the priests around until one day it blew up in their faces. So I strongly believe that one day the church will have to confront the lie that they're peddling.
Well,
They have to.
they've been confronted with it since Canright, since their
Yeah,
birth.
but we are the little children being abused. We're me, Desmond Ford, you even.
So let's say they
Come on.
confront it. You know what's going to happen when it's confronted? The church is going to dissolve like the Armstrong Church. It's going to split. It's going to fragment. Because if
Yeah,
you remove Ellen White's position and authority, it's all over for Adventism. So what you're saying is, I hope and pray that the Lord will help me minister and share this idea slowly at His pace, because then that will bring about the ultimate downfall of Adventism.
yeah, but
You're,
I
you're the
don't
same
wish.
as me, but doing it slowly.
Yeah, I don't wish for it to be just broken down like that. You'll put a lot of people out of work. You know how many pastors depend on this
I
to
don't think
support
that
their
matters.
children?
I just don't think
You know,
that matters.
I have feelings for the pastors' children. I know a number of them, and for them to just lose that, all their pension and
Well, I
everything,
did
where
that.
would
I
they
got
go?
2 kids. I lost, half of my income, and I just
Yeah,
couldn't. And I existed within the church, knowing this stuff was wrong, but I was doing my own ministry, so I wasn't under a paycheck from anyone. But I don't know. I've just come to lately think, so what? Like, I think the truth matters. And I think for your own mental health and happiness, I'd rather be a pauper and struggling with cash flow and be able to look my kids in the eye and say, I don't believe that rubbish. And I'm going to tell people publicly that it's rubbish, because it's actually hurtful to people now, not when it slowly is undermined by your way of doing it in the next 400 years. It's got to be done now.
for 400. I can see you are itching to upturn the tables. But I tell these things to ADL. ADL knows that I have these ideas, and they haven't thrown me out. Well, hopefully,
Yeah,
when
but
I
they
when
won't
they
print
see
your
this,
material.
yeah, well, that's another thing. It's their
It's not another
prerogative.
thing. It is the
Yeah.
thing.
Okay. So, what do you recommend I do, Peter Dixon? You're my psychologist. Tell me, what do I do
Okay,
now?
here's my advice.
Yeah.
Um, Ascertain if you are mentally strong enough and financially secure enough to cope
Mhm.
with putting your face and real name to this content. If you are not, continue on as you are, brother. If you are, then show your face and share this stuff. Come back on the show in a few weeks or in a year or whenever you feel comfortable.
Yeah.
I
I,
don't
I
sit here and reveal all of my stuff that's going on in my mind. So I'm not saying an authentic person has to be blunt and say everything that's on their mind, but I'm saying if you see danger, you need to call it out. I'm not setting up a channel of former Baptist or former Anglican. They don't even exist. There's former Mormons, former Adventists, and former JWs. They're the big three. And if you feel that your movement is causing danger for children, regardless of money, regardless of reputation, if you feel strong enough, this is the important thing. If you feel strong enough in your identity, when I left the church, it took 5 years to go, hang on a second, who am I again? It was very mentally challenging. And luckily I think because of music, I kind of was able to pretty quickly snap back into my identity. But if you feel strong enough, my advice to you, if you've told me I'm your counselor and psychologist for the day, is to show your face, share this news publicly, and I think it will have some absolutely great value. But if you don't feel that you're strong enough, just don't do it for a while. Maybe never. Many Adventist apologists for 180 years have just quietly, we're changing the church and we're going to do it quietly. It's going to be an evolution, not a revolution. And like when I interviewed Bill Johnson, and I said to him, well, how's that working out for you when they wanted Des Ford to go a bit slow and put it in his back pocket? I just think there comes a time, and that time wasn't for all these gospel Adventists in the early 80s, where it was a really dangerous thing to speak up and speak your mind against the church. The power to destroy lives was way more profound than it is now. But now I think it's the time. I think it's time for you guys, if you're strong enough, to speak up, show your face, and share this information. And I think you will have a very powerful ministry if you do. But again,
Okay.
only if you're strong enough. If you're not, if you're a little bit weak and need your cultural, safe little Sabbath school where you can quietly tell your friends, fine. If you need to be liked, don't do it. If you need to be liked, this is going to get you disliked.
Okay. Peter, we go back a long way. You don't realize it because you
You've
never
probably
knew
had
me
different
really.
pseudonyms, have you?
No, but since you began this show, I've been watching you interview people, and you've always made this point. And you've interviewed a number of people, and you were asking them, why don't you come together as a group and form an organization? Miles, what's the other one? Miles' friend. He is part of a Presbyterian pastor now.
Oh, LC Thunder.
LC Thunder. And a number of them. Recently, Davis, you've asked, why don't you come together and form a group?
So
And they've never
who am
done
I
it,
asking? I'm not suggesting Miles and Ryan Day and those guys come together.
No, you would ask that of them.
No.
Maybe not of
the gospel
recently.
Adventists. I say the gospel Adventists should come together, not
Right.
those who are speaking against Adventism. I like
Okay.
everyone being separate and doing their own thing. Yeah, it's
Oh, you
great that
do?
we
Okay.
naturally do communicate, but there's no
Okay.
need for an organized thing. My big thrust is you guys that are all so au fait with being able to criticize Ellen White, you guys need to get organized and come together. You're all just a little bit too wussy, quiet cowards, in my humble opinion.
Now, that's a terrible thing for a psychologist to tell his patient, but I accept it.
No, but I did
Who's
caveat
the-
that. I did caveat that. What did I
see-
caveat? What's my caveat to
Oh,
you?
I
If
can't
you feel
remember.
strong enough,
Oh, okay.
if you're
Maybe
not
I'm
ready to be disliked and challenged, stay in your little safe bubble. But if you
Yeah.
feel that you're able to, I promise you, you will have a ministry that's very powerful because you are very articulate in the way you oppose and challenge the Adventist narrative on these topics.
One day I want to come and talk to you about the three angels' messages for the next few months because I don't want to dominate the scene.
It would bore me to tears because it'd be like me coming to you and saying, look, I want to share with you for 2 hours the 7 modes of lead guitar playing and the
I would love
pentatonic
that.
major and the pentatonic minor. And maybe you would because you are a musician. But most people who go, no, I just want to listen to music and enjoy it. They're not going to enjoy me sharing the theory there. But some of us love it. And I'm saying that if you shared the three angels message and how Adventists may have it wrong, you have an audience that will love it. And I'm happy to send you to those places where people will love it. I'd love to help you do that. But I'm just saying that if you want a really effective ministry, there will come a time when you need to put your name and face to it.
In time. But I want to end it by giving you this here. There's another poem I wrote. And then I have a riddle for you.
Oh, good.
Something just for someone. I saw in a winter store a doll that stood alone, with eyes that stared beyond the pain, and heart that longed and longed for something and for someone. Her dream so framed her posture, so tall and strong she looked, that every face that turned her way returned again in wonder at something so like someone, until the eve of Christmas, when soft blue eyes beheld her heart aglow in fervent hope, came pieces in her hand for something just for someone. I saw leave this winter store, this happy girl and doll, now that the price in full was paid for something just for someone. In other words, there is a doll that wants to be adopted, to be bought, but it took a special girl to come and buy that doll for someone. That's the point.
Mm.
Sometimes you have to be patient, Just let time go by, and in time God will send. In time
I,
God will
I
send.
I think that's a very beautiful poem, and I think it's very very creative, and it helps for people who want to see change that seem to be unable to bring it about, to find solace. Well, in
You
God's
always have
time.
to knock
But
me down,
my
Peter.
my
You're always knocking me down. Anyway, go ahead.
no, 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 I'm not talking you down. I'm actually saying the opposite. That I think you do have creativity, skills, an ability to articulate these thoughts, put them into PowerPoints. I'm just saying that maybe instead of going, "Hey, it might not happen in my lifetime, but that's okay. I know Adventism's not going to change in my lifetime. I don't care. I'm enjoying just stirring the pot and making people think and encouraging conversation. So it doesn't worry me, but I'm just saying that if everyone said, "Oh, look, it'll happen in everyone's time," that's fine. Well, when that applies to your normal benign Protestant movements, fine. But when it's something as serious as Mormonism, Jehovah's Witnesses, and Seventh-day Adventism, where these teachings can cause great harm, I'm less patient.
Mm.
And look, I was your age when I left the church 9 years ago, and I spent my life waking up like you did at quite young
Uh-huh.
age, and doing what I thought was the right thing behind the scenes, exactly like you did. And all I'm saying to you is that instead of doing that at age 27 or whatever, when it started to slowly dawn on me, I tried to make the changes from behind and in God's time, and it'll happen when it's meant to. And hey, the right person will come when the time is right. And I wasted 20 years of my life that could have been actually doing something about it, not just my nice
Oh,
little
I
safe
see.
spaces, feeling like I was actually being very impactful. No, as soon as I left, "Oh, you've betrayed us. You're a tool of Satan." Oh, gone. Everything you've done means nothing now. Um, I'm just planting a seed that I do believe
Okay.
in you, and I do believe you have gifts, but I believe that
Okay.
you could quite go to your grave just quietly thinking you're making any changes behind the scenes, and only doing it as an excuse because you want to be liked and you don't want people to create turbulence in your world. And if you don't want turbulence, keep doing what you're doing.
I think I mentioned my career is in computer science,
I
right?
know. Can you help
Yes.
me?
Sure, I can help you. You've helped me greatly by saying, Mark, come on my show and talk your head off. You know. So why shouldn't I help you in turn? But I have two puzzles for you. Yeah,
Hmm.
just by the way, make things a little lively. Are you seeing what's on the screen?
Yes.
Okay. Let's look at the second one. You enter a classroom. There are 25 students. The bell rings. It's after school. 20 students left. How many are in the classroom?
You're giving me an IQ test.
Come on, Peter. You know this answer.
Oh dear. You enter a classroom.
There are
There are
25
25
students.
students. The
The
bell
bell
rings. It's after school. 20 students left. How many are in the classroom? Can there be 5 plus the teacher?
See, I'm going to give you the answer because I don't intend for this to go on till tomorrow morning. How many are in the classroom? 20 are in the classroom. I'm telling you the answer.
Yeah.
The bell rings. It's after school.
It's a lateral thinking one.
20 students are left in the classroom.
Well, it doesn't say 20 students are left. It says 20 students left. But you can read it grammatically either way. Yeah.
Right. Now for the first one. A dog has 3 puppies, Sunday, Monday, and Tuesday. What is the mother's name? Now, this you have to really think,
There's
Let's make a wild
there's a
guess.
famous show over here and in England called the 1% Club, and they have
Okay.
heaps of questions like this, and my daughters and I love it. We watch it every week, and you've always got to go, hang on, they're not really asking what you think they're asking. The dog has 3 puppies, Sunday,
Right.
Monday, and Tuesday. What is the mother's name? Well, she must be the Seventh-day Sabbath.
My goodness, Peter. Again, I will not spend endless days here. I'm telling you the answer.
Tell me. Oh, what is the mother's name? See, you'd be great at the 1% Club. Yes, so the mother's name is what?
And that ends our
I thought you said there were 3
2.5 hour. No, that's 2. 2. But I just thought I'll put it in, make a fun kind of
I like
point
it.
that
Yes.
this is what Seventh-day Adventists, how the Seventh-day Adventists read the Bible. They don't see what is there.
Mm.
They don't see what is there.
They don't see what is there in plain sight. Yeah, very good point.
Yep.
It's right under their noses, just like...
Are you still there?
Yeah, can you hear me? I think everyone can still hear me.
Yeah, I'm hearing you now.
Oh, good.
But your video is kind of skewed.
It might just be your end. Everyone can see it good here. That's a great example because it's right under their very noses. That, you know what the sad thing about the Adventists is that when you show them, you showed me and I was able to laugh and go, oh yeah, there it is. Whereas they don't. They go, oh, hang on. No, when you say what, you mean really, and they get into the cognitive dissonance land. And I feel like some people are going to say, Mark, you have read that riddle, you've seen it right under your nose, and you're able to laugh at it, but you don't want to laugh out loud because you'll get into trouble for laughing out loud.
That's true. But anyway,
what a great conversation.
I didn't want to be preaching for 4 hours, I just wanted to.
No. Well, most of our interviews go for about 2.5.
Thank you, Peter.
Mate, I've really enjoyed it. Honestly, I really have enjoyed our conversation today. I hope you have too. And I'm looking forward to when you say to me, I'm predicting, I reckon this time next year, God willing, I'm still alive, you'll say, hey, I'm coming on full face, and I'm going to share my thoughts where Ellen White's teachings are incongruent to the Bible. And here's my face, and here's my PowerPoint. Oh, what an exciting
Well, I already
day.
did that, but I wouldn't say here's...
No, that's what I'm saying. You got to put your face to it. I can't wait for that day. Oh, what a glorious day that will be. No, you're not interested? Are you still there? I hope you're still there. Well, thank you everybody for watching today. I've really enjoyed this
Are you hearing me?
conversation, and I can hear you. Can you hear me? And I really appreciate that. Yes, I can hear you. You can hear me. We can hear each other. I really appreciate that you've allowed me to push back at some of the things you've said, and I look forward to having you back on again in the future. And yeah, I can hear you. You're saying you can hear my voice as a robot, but that's all right. Everyone else can hear it normally. So thank you everyone for watching. Don't forget tomorrow.
I'll hear what you have to say. I'll hear what you have to say when I look.
Tomorrow we're playing back my interview with Pastor John Den, all about Des Ford and Glacier View from 5 years ago. I'm hoping he will come on to the program as well, and I'm looking forward to that. And as I said, we've got Don McAdams, Warren Trenchard, Bob Brinsmead, all coming up sometime in the next month. It's going to be wonderful. So I'll see you guys tomorrow, same time, and very much look forward to that. Until then, see you later.
Thank you, Peter. Thank you.